What's up, streamers? You ever hear or read a story that really shocks you? I just had one of those. And hopefully, I can get everybody's opinion on this. Y'all tell me your reactions. I definitely had a reaction when I first read the story. And it's an incident that happened in Atlanta, Georgia on last Tuesday at a grocery store, Kroger's, where a guy named James Morris and his 2 year old son was at the self checkout line scanning the groceries. At that point, the 2 year old, like any 2 year old or young child, sees the candy there and wants the candy bar, asking his dad, "Can I have the candy?" So when the dad tells him, "Can't have it, it's too late, we're too long in the process," maybe he had already slipped his card in, whatever. But, that's why they have that stuff up there to get the "I want it" kids. And a lot of times us parents fall for that. Well, I guess the kid was going on a little bit. So it, I guess, irritated one of the other customers at the Kroger. Now, the story doesn't say whether or not the kid was throwing a fit, throwing himself on the floor, or anything like that, which we've all seen happen. But it does say that one of the other customers, a 62-year-old man named Juan Martinez, decided to take matters in his own hands, grab the kid by his arm, and start spanking him. At that point, the dad goes, "What are you doing?" And the guy looks back at him and says, "This is what we do in Mexico. It's how we handle it." And the guy looks back at him and says, "Well, this ain't Mexico, buddy." And it gets broke up and police end up coming and the guy was arrested. I guess he was drunk in public or whatever. To me, that's neither here nor there. I don't care if he's from Mexico. My personal reaction when I first read that was I would have beat the living hell out of that dude. Somebody put their hands on my child. And I think for most people, that's how they would feel. Whether you spank your child or you don't spank your child, somebody else ain't going to spank my child. You know what I mean? That's one of the fears about putting kids in like daycares and stuff. If anyone's going to discipline their child, it's going to be them in whatever manner they feel fit to do it. So I definitely would like to have everybody's reaction to that piece. First off, like, tell me what you would do in that scenario, because I think I would flip out. I would be the one being handcuffed that day. Now, the guy, says that he didn't start a big disturbance and get physical with the guy because he didn't want potentially his toddler to get in the middle of it, which, thinking in the back of my head, it's probably a good decision because the child probably, if he was out of the cart or whatever, would probably have got in the middle of it and potentially would be in danger. So I guess, good by him, but I'm not sure if I would have had that type of rationale at that time. I think I would have just started throwing punches. But yeah, that was amazing to me. That's shocking that somebody would have the audacity to take matters in their own hand and spank another man's child. I mean, that's asinine, but it's wild. I mean, you got to feel really comfortable and I don't know what you have to feel because I've never thought about spanking anyone's child. I've thought about yelling at the mother or the father a few times while I've been at the store and if their child's running amok, because that's complete lack of control of your children, and it's typically not the child's fault; it's the parents' fault. And me personally, I don't think spanking your child is the best way of disciplining your children. It typically makes them more combative. And there's enough surveys and studies and statistics to prove that. And I'll put a link in the description of the story. But also, when you're spanking your children, like, think about this. It also made me think about how we discipline our children. And I don't spank my kids. I got 4 of them. I don't spank my kids. I try to, talk them through things, and sometimes they get sent to their room or whatever. But there's enough studies out there that shows that kids who get spanked, on average, will end up with a lower IQ than kids that don't get spanked. And like I said, I'll put another link in the description for that as well. But there's one survey here where they tested 1,500 children, and depending on the age, if they're really, really young, After 4 years of spanking, it lowers their IQ on average by 5%. If they're a little bit older, by at least 2.5%. You might say, that's not a lot, but when the average IQ is somewhere, in the 85 to 95 range, 5 points could be very damaging. And there's so many other things that go, your surroundings and stuff that go into IQs, but if there's a direct correlation between spanking and not spanking, I would go without spanking. Plus, there's enough research that shows that, typically kids who get spanked tend to have are more aggressive, a little more violent, other behavioral problems, mental health issues. So there's enough reasons out there not to spank your kids. Plus, it never makes you feel good as a parent. I mean, I was spanked a few times, and I know a lot of other people that were spanked, and the most common thing said by the parent was, it hurts me more than it's going to hurt you, which not really. But it still doesn't make you feel good as a parent, spanking your child. But really think about, that. Like, somebody else spanking your child is a totally different story, but you yourself, the way you discipline, that should definitely be taken into consideration. Now, I don't think that this, if the guy says he doesn't spank his child, that this one, incident is going to lower his kid's IQ. That's something sustained over, 4, 5, 6, a lot of years, not just one time. So I don't think the guy has anything to worry about that. But the audacity of that story, like the guy doing that, is totally crazy. And then there's a lot of people that spank their children, and a lot of people think that that's the way to show them who's boss. And you hear people, oh, you got to put the fear of God in them so they know who to listen to. It's like, if you can't reason with your children, you're not really raising them to think properly. You're just showing them get your way by force. And actually, Stefan Molyneux has a lot of great material. If you want to dig into that, deeper, he has 4 or 5 things explaining the statistics and surveys about spanking children. I definitely suggest checking that out. Like I said, I don't spank my kids, but I would definitely advise against it if you're got children now or you're going to have children in the future. Really think about that. Like, what are you setting them up for? Do you think you're stopping bad behavior, but potentially you're making it worse? I really didn't have a lot to say about the story or any of the other stats. It just, like I said, it was really shocking to me, and I'd like to hear everybody's opinion and reaction to that. What would you do if you're at any type of store or out in public and some stranger came up and started spanking your child? Whether you spank or not, what would you do if somebody else did that? Like I said, I have a pretty confident that I probably would have lost my cool quickly. Let me know what you would do. In the meantime, like, subscribe, dislike, leave a comment. Peace.